G'day guys, it's Calvin and Mike from the Cartoon Company. Today we're going to be looking at the four-wheel drive engagement motors on the back of a lot of the Toyota transfer cases. They look like this, and they look like that when they're really dirty, and when they're on a vehicle they look like that. So that happens to be a Hilux. We've been doing a V8 in. We're just going to give that a bit of a go through and a check over, just as maintenance. This transfer case is going on the back of an automatic, so that video is coming up. We're going to give that one a service, and this one, Mike went out the other day to a mate's surf, and the four-wheel drive isn't working. So we're going to start by looking at this motor. I've set up a little bit of wiring for it. So when I do a conversion, I often use the factory Toyota four-wheel drive computer. You can do it with a rocker switch. There's ways of blowing things up and getting things wrong. There are operational errors that can occur. This way is a pretty foolproof way and it works really well. So I've set that up as a tester. I've got the factory four-wheel drive computer, set it up on the bench, wired up to the motor unit here and the sweeper switch, and it's got the four-wheel drive light, which I've wired up to my test light. And if I push the imaginary button on the gear stick, which is this one, I can hear it moving. Yeah, there might have been some mud in this one, eh? So the idea is this gear will move, and it pushes on the shaft, and the shaft will actually engage the four-wheel drive light, which is there. So testing like this, it won't engage the four-wheel drive light. So we'll see if it moves. It's actually moving quite well, but it could be because you've taken it off. We'll pop over to this one. It's really common that these underneath this tag fills up with dirt, which isn't a whole lot of fun. So this one's still attached to the transfer, as you can see. Again, we'll push that button, imaginary button on the side, and it turns the light on. We can hear the gears moving. And there's also this switch on the side of the transfer case, so that when you put it into low four-wheel drive, it bypasses the switch on the gear stick, so you don't have a low two-wheel drive. So we'll do that. And the light's coming on. So that one's working. So we're going to pull this apart to remove it. It's pretty straightforward. Actually, do you want to then? So what you're going to do on this one, is the gear's going to fall out, is you are going to remove this cover. And we're going to have a look inside there. Okay, so if you pop that cover off, we'll see what it's looking like in there. And I'll pop this one off. Here you go, that's yours. So to pop them off, you need to undo these bolts here. These 4 10mm bolts. And this one's been off, that seal's all jammed up. And then you slide the gear out. There's the pin that comes out as well. And then remove the big bolts. So there's 3 of them. They'll either be a 14 on the early ones or a 12 on the later. And it pretty much should just slip off. There we have that. Cover off the side. How you looking in there? Is yours dirty? Yours is spotless. So they can get quite a lot of corrosion in here if they leak. This one hasn't. This one's been managed to stay sealed. That's actually looking really good to me. I wouldn't be concerned about that. And it tested fine. Do you want to look at the brushes on the motor or not? Because it's working fine.
Well, it's working fine.
So I don't think that's your four-wheel drive problem.
There's probably more likely an airline to the front diff.
Yep. So what else you've got is you got your two solenoids on the ADD solenoids. Should we get it? We'll have a look. Get it down. Have a look, eh? On the front diff, we've got a sensor here, and we've got the vacuum lines and this actuator. This actuator is vacuum operated, and it needs to pull the four-wheel drive in and reverse and go the four-wheel drive off as well. So it's four-wheel drive on and off. And it's got a pair of solenoids to do that. So to actuate the front diff, it has these two. So we say ADD, that's for auto diff disconnect. And it's got the two solenoids, and they require vacuum. So this one's got vacuum coming here through a one-way valve. It actually has a vacuum canister tucked here. So on some vehicles it's on the other side of the vehicle. This one it's right there. So any leaks in these vacuum lines will cause problems. And you've got on and off. You can actually cheat it. If you pop your vacuum supply and you go directly on there, supply it down, but you should be able to pull, if you pull these off, you'll probably need it running because it needs vacuum, unless it's got a reservoir. So for a start, pop that off, check you got some vacuum, which you can see when we pulled this off, we had vacuum. Start it, run up some vacuum, and then as you pop each of these off, there should be vacuum at one of them. Okay, if there's not, then you've got a leak in the system. If you get vacuum there, then go down the bottom and check you've got vacuum at the actuator. From there, it's wiring. There's a ADD relay, which is often labelled as a fuel pump relay under the dash, and a surf, it's on by the steering wheel. He pretty much just wants four-wheel drive all the time though, doesn't he? So what you can do, if you want four-wheel drive all the time, the motor should work, I believe, on the button, and we can hear it working. So you should hear the motor going zzz, zzz, regardless of what the front diff's doing. And then manual some vacuum down to the front diff to diagnose it. But I think you're going to find a vacuum leak. It's my guess.
Sounds like it.
You've run lines now, so you can pop your one back together, and I'm going to pull my one apart.
Okay.
See, this one's got some water and crap in it. So that was going to lead to a problem. So we'll give that a clean. And while I'm in here, I'm going to check these brushes on the motor as well. Have we got a white pen, please? Can you grab me a marker pen? Thank you very much. Be nice if it didn't all come out like this, but it's going to. And this one's had a bit of water in it as well. There's a bit of moisture. So I'm glad we caught this one in time because there's been a bit of moisture in there. It actually looks like it's going to turn fine. This pulls out. So we'll give that a clean. Get rid of that moisture that's in there. And then we have to push these brushes back in. There's a couple of little springs. We try not to lose those because it probably won't work without those springs.
Have you tried it without them?
No, I haven't actually tried it without them. Well, I'm just working on past experiences with other electric motors.
Oh,
Or was it an electric engine?
yeah.
And this is why we pull them apart. Watery, gungy crap in the bottom. This one just pops off. There's a little circlip. We'll give it a good clean up and then pop it back together. It's disgusting. And this one was working fine when we tested it there, but it wasn't going to work fine for long. So Mike's put his one back together. He's used a bit of sealant around the O-rings just to make sure that they do keep water out.
Bit of poo.
This one I'm popping back together. I've used a bit of assembly lube instead of a grease, in the place of a grease. I find it works quite well in these situations. So we slip that back in, refit the gear, refit the circlip. Right, can you pull the one off? Oh, what are you doing there? Can you pull the one off the back of this truck, please?
Yes.
So to put them back together, you kind of need 5 hands. Oh, 3 hands would be helpful, but... Here we go. You'll notice also that I've made sure that I've realigned the marks on here with where this is going to sit. I find if I just hold this motor and the windings in place like this, slip it on like so, and back in with the screws, piece of cake. Bit of assembly lube. Cover goes back on, pretty easy. Pretty much you just do the opposite of when you took it apart. Where's the rotor gun? On the bench. I see the 10 mils returned.
What?
The 10 mil has returned, that's good. Right, we're back together. We'll give it a test. You're noisy. That's a later one, eh? Because it's got the smaller bolt.
Yeah.
So the gearbox they got for that truck is a small. So see that one's got the smaller bolts in it?
Yeah, I know. 12 mil instead of 14 mil, eh?
Correct.
So it's on the whole time.
I'm back and working. And back on it goes. Now you can get this bit wrong when you put the gear in, whether it's already engaged or not. And that's it. You can see there it's oh, look, it's actually working. That doesn't show what I wanted it to show. Let's put it in backwards, eh? So we'll pop this out. I will engage it into four-wheel drive.
Has this one ever been used?
Is that like a new one? Oh, look at that. It looks like a brand spanking new one.
I'm just about keen to look at that, eh?
Okay. Yeah, put it back together. It's all good. Put it back on. Right, what I've done here is I've actually put it in four-wheel drive because it's easier than getting it wrong on the bench, in the vehicle. And I'm going to pop that gear in. So now it's technically wrong. It's one of the mistakes you can have, and you'll see it'll jam up. You can hear the motor move, but it's not going in and out like it should. If that's the case, pop your gear out, move it through the range, slide the gear back in. Like it should. So that one was all working, but we've got the button doesn't work, eh? Doesn't bypass on the button, so we might as well look at the button too. So that's all working like it should. I'm going to leave this cover off for the moment because I'm going to organise another O-ring for it. And we're going to work on one that Mike's been looking at because it's got a problem where it's not going into high four-wheel drive on the button. So we'll have a look at that process as well. The motor itself is just an electric motor, so it can be reversed. So you can power it up directly without using the controls inside. And that will allow you, if you wanted to run it like a window switch or rocker switch. But you have to have it the right way around to start with. So there it's in. And of course you can keep loading that motor up, but it's on a stopper inside the unit. So you can overload it and blow things up. There's four-wheel drive in. There's four-wheel drive out. That's another way of testing it, just power and earth each side. So we turn this on. This is in two-wheel drive. Here's your button. It's a little bit loud because it hasn't got an exhaust. So you can see when I move this forward, because of the bypass switch on the side, you can actually hear the motor working. It hasn't put the front diff in there because there's not enough vacuum. So that's going into four-wheel drive fine, and it's coming out of four-wheel drive, but it's not working. Oh, it is working on the button now. It wasn't working on the button before, but it, yeah. Let's start it and just double check that that's now working on the button. Of course, it's quite easy to check the button with your multimeter. Continuity, no continuity. Very, very simple. So now it's actually working on the button. It wasn't earlier. You can hear the motor moving in. And there's enough vacuum in the reservoir and the front diff's in the right place that it's actually bringing the light on. So I hope that's somewhat helpful of the system, how it works. It does seem a little bit complicated when you're not used to it, but once you've got your head around it, it's a real simple system. I see quite a lot of buttons fail. I see heaps of those motors on the back that are just all corroded and full of mud and crap, and vacuum lines going down to the front diff. If you've done a solid front end conversion, or you're using this gearbox in a conversion that didn't have it originally, then wiring up the four-wheel drive control motor, I feel that is the best way to control it, rather than a rocker switch. Rocker switches can work, but that operator error can be pushed too far and you can do damage to that motor. So the little computer, real simple to wire, straightforward, and it solves the problem once and for all. So I hope that was kind of helpful on sorting out how the four-wheel drive system works, and we'll catch you again. Talk to you later.